Hi, everyone. It's Regine T. Rousseau with Leader to Leader. I am super excited to be back with Martin Reyes. He's a MW, founder of Reyes Wine Group, and partner at WineWise, a California importer. Martin has held many jobs across the wine industry. Get prepared. Importer, buyer, writer, winemaker, podcast co-host, but his latest endeavor has captured the wine world. Reyes created Napa Rise Initiative. This is a program that encourages businesses to take more active approach in building social equity, cutting down greenhouse gas emission, creating strong, healthy vineyards, and giving back to local community. This is more than a conference. Napa Rise provides a year-long mentorship to two participants to ensure that they move forward towards these ambitious goals. All right, everyone, let's get into it and let's learn a little bit more about one of our leaders. Martin, I want to know, with all of the things that you do, which title best represents the person or the leader you want to become, who you're striving to become?
I would say that in this spans probably anything I've done in the past 15 or so years is I find myself to be fiercely collaborative. And whether that's a small project, whether it's a new business, whether it's managing multiple companies to gather around a symposium or with my kids. I would say that I thrive within a sense of community, whether it's small or whether it's just a group of friends, family, or businesses. That's been the common thread is going forward. It's kind of, and maybe it's kind of a cliche to say that, but that's where I'm comfortable is saying that, is acknowledging that, to a fault, perhaps I'm collaborative. I want, bridge building. I want, not agreement entirely, because diversity of opinions is just as powerful as anything. It tests ideas, the right way, not a bunch of yes people around you, but just being collaborative across the board is something that I find has helped me more than anything in my life. And friendships, the relationships, that the things that happen when you work with people and you talk to people that you like. It's pretty cool.
So I don't think it's cliche in any way. I think collaboration is difficult because, I'm assuming that you're not just collaborating with anyone. You're looking for people who balance your strengths and your weaknesses. So, can you talk a little bit about, is there a strategy that you use when you're creating a new initiative or you're looking for a partner? How are you choosing the right person or people or organization to work with?
Well, I would say, Regine, that one of the most underrated aspects of working with someone is really understanding how two things could be the modality of the exact same scenario, the same thing, can be seen through two different lenses, and acknowledging that yours isn't automatically the correct one. I think to some degree a little bit of vulnerability in any dialogue. It's hard, by the way. I think vulnerability in some ways is the hardest thing to do, which is actually probably the most courageous thing to do. It's easy to put your foot down and say, this is the way to do it. This is how it should be done. Especially when you believe that. We all believe at a certain point, we all believe that we've chosen the right path.
Yes.
And that if you disagree with me, you're just not seeing the right ways. And so let me tell you why this way is the best, right? We all have that. Even somebody who is, it doesn't matter who it is. But I think that if we really want people to listen to us, we need to listen to them. We need to listen to their opinions. We need to see, and so oftentimes we'll find there's more commonality than we think there was originally. So being able to being empathic or showing empathy, and understanding that everything can have different ways of going forward, and sometimes that's another way for those people who may disagree with you or see it differently to then come around to see your way, and vice versa. And then together you have this tapestry of a solution or of a business idea, as opposed to just your way. I know Napa Rise, I know WineWise, the importer that I co-own now, and I know Reyes Wine Group and Peter Paul. We all were better. All of those initiatives were better because we listened to each other.
So I love that. I'm hearing you talk about collaboration, but I'm hearing you say, correct me if I'm wrong, that the reason that you're able to have strong collaborations is because you listen, right? And you didn't say this, but I'm saying this. You put your ego aside, right? Because that's a big part of it. And you think, even if you come in with this amazing vision, right? And you might be committed to the vision, you can grow a vision if you listen to the people around you.
Yeah, just think if you come into a group and you have a strong opinion, and there's two ways to be told that you're wrong, or that your opinion is not going to be heard, or your ideas are not going to be implemented. There's two ways to approach to feel within that organization. One of them is, we're sorry. We thank you very much for your opinion, and we're going to go a different direction.
Bye.
You're like, okay, well, I guess I'm not really. There's a thing around being valued and being recognized, and that is so powerful for all of us. What we really want, this entire world, what we really want at the end of the day, is a little bit of recognition for how hard we work, how much we put into this, the maybe the ingenuity of certain things, whether and also just a little bit of respect. So there's one way of doing it, which is receiving that sort of note. And the other way is like saying, okay, your idea, let's investigate it. And then you feel like, okay, I'm being heard, I'm being validated, the idea is being worked through. And then at the end of the day, we genuinely looked at it, but it didn't quite work. And here's why. You were brought in through the entire chain. You're like, you might still disagree, but you're like, okay, this organization, this company, this family really heard me. I was listened to. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll stay because of the way in which my input was received, digested, validated. And ultimately, even if we didn't go down that path, we know that I feel still valued. And also within that process of listening, right? There might be a nugget that you can get out of those conversations that will move the project forward, even if the core of the idea wasn't perfect for the project, right? Right, exactly. So ultimately, you're right, Regine. Ultimately, when you start by saying, what is the objective? And if you're a leader, or if you are a group of leaders, or if you are a middle person, or if you're brand new, if you practice on taking that ego out just a little bit and then putting in saying, what is it that we actually want to do? We would quickly acknowledge that the best way forward is to make sure that the best ideas come to the front. The best solutions are vetted. Some of them are morphed over time. Different opinions and perspectives can illuminate paths that weren't there originally. Doesn't mean we're going to get it right. But I think that if there's a healthy way to build a consensus. There's a healthy way to build an organization. There's a healthy way to improve the wine industry, I think.
And it sounds like you have a real healthy process in place. So I want to talk a little bit about leadership. There are a million definitions. There are a million aspects of someone that makes them a strong leader. When you think about yourself as a leader, is it the listening? Is it the ability to collaborate? What makes you a strong leader?
I don't think I'm automatically someone that will ever tell you that I lead from the front. There's I think if we look at it from a visual, if we look at it in very simple terms, and we hear this often, people, leaders either are from the front or from the rear, from behind, right? What kind of leader is one person or the other? And my way is good. And sometimes the talented and the truly genius people, they're on a whole another plane that I don't think I belong in. I'm not after that. I don't think I have that capacity. So I think number one, a clear-headed assessment of your strengths and weaknesses is first.
Absolutely.
Clear-headed, I'd say, not fantastical, I'm not the most, for instance, the most organized person in the world. And no amount of no amount of exercise or practice is going to get me more organized than a person who's innately their brain's an Excel sheet. So going back to the lead from the front or lead from the back, I'm thinking, Regine, that if I'm going to be thinking about what has made me successful, I would say that maybe I'm the leader that sort of has the ability to go through and maybe go into the back, check out what people are doing, those the newcomers, people who are just joining, people who don't have a lot of time to dedicate to a project, check in with them, sort of maybe a wandering leader around the pack.
Sometimes
leading from the middle.
I was going to say, we're on the same page. I've never heard anyone say that, but it sounds like you lead from the middle. And I think, this is super interesting because we have sometimes one definition of success, right?
Yeah.
You have to be right here, or you can only make change from one position. And I love how you were describing this, this ability to make impact wherever you are, right? In the middle. It doesn't have to be at the top or in the back, but in the middle, I can make an impact right where I am.
Right. And exactly. And the middle, I think, when you think of, if you take this a little bit further from the middle, then you understand that sometimes innately you have to go up to the front.
Of course.
Sometimes you need the assertiveness, like, okay, we have to make a decision.
Sure.
And this is the way we're going to do it. Sometimes you can, death by committee. I think too much of this, I acknowledge, too much of this can paralyze us and let, and stifle progress if it's too collaborative. I get that. And sometimes that happens to me too. But sort of moving up front, to the side, to the left, and while knowing that your place is in the center of the group, I think is the best way to think about it. Never thought about it until you mentioned that, Regine. Well done.
Yeah. And you know what I'm thinking about when we're talking about in the center is, when you're at a table, conference table or whatever, the power position is the person who sits in the center, not at the front, or both ends. It's that person in the center, because that person can see everyone, hear everyone, and can communicate to everyone more easily. So I love this image, and I'm going to take it with me. So
that's cool. Me too.
Let's talk about, when I listen to podcasts and interviews, I'm very short-sighted in a way, because I'm going in hoping that the person who's being interviewed drops some nugget. And for me, what's really important are daily habits. Okay. So I want you to share a habit or a practice that you engage in daily that really attributes to your success.
I wish I can say I do this daily, but I need to, and I think we all deserve this.
Okay.
But this is the number one thing that I would say, aside from health, sleep, and food, and all that stuff, right? The daily thing, I think, that maybe I do this is finding white space for yourself. I don't know if that's the right term, just a little point where you just think about the day without having to no, think about nothing, excuse me,
Mhm.
where you can just sit and have some coffee. And it's my beautiful patio here. I got to show it to people just how awesome my patio
I'm
is.
so
It's
jealous.
just
I'm
so
in an
cool. There's
apartment with
water view.
no greens around me. I love it. It's gorgeous.
I'm working. This is my workbench for some more plants. So soon we'll have more stuff. Anyway, being able to sit with your coffee without your phone, without a book, without your notes, without a diary, even just white space.
Yeah.
Emily Bell, owner of Pip Imports and Domestics in Pennsylvania, she used that phrase and it stuck with me maybe 4 years ago. So that's, how like when we talk about like best ideas come in the shower sometimes, why is that? I think it's similar. I think it's related. In the shower, we're not thinking about work. We're not thinking about anything specific, right? We're just cleansing ourselves.
Washing, yes.
Washing. And then you're just washing and you're doing nothing. All of a sudden you're like, hang on, right? We all have, I think that is kind of the vibe that I've been after. Yeah. And I would like that to be a daily habit for us.
I love that. I like to call it moments of stillness, where there's like nothing's on. It's just, you're right. Those are the moments that all the answers come for me. So,
you're not designed to always be on.
Yeah. And we're on all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. And you can't move forward if you're on all the time.
Right.
So I love that. And
Thanks for the therapy session.
Yeah, this is what I do. It's a little bit of a meditate, moments to meditate.
Right.
Okay, so here's another area that I'm always concerned about. So, it's great to celebrate our accomplishments. We're here to learn about you as a leader, you as a person, but we don't often share the full story. And by the full story, I mean the good, the bad, and the ugly, and what I like to call, more importantly, the comeback story. Do you have a comeback story? Do you have a moment that you can look back on and say, man, I've been through some things and now I'm here?
It's a good question. Through the lens of professionals, a couple of vintages, listen to us, a couple of years come to mind where you weren't sure about what your path forward was, 2011 and 2016, both where either, you're in a situation where you don't know, companies either just were not the right fit and you have to leave, you have to part ways sooner than you needed to, wanted to, you don't want to leave. And if the writing's on the wall about a company that you just don't feel right about, that they may be great, but it's just not a cultural fit for you, do the brave thing and leave. And that happened to me in 2011. And I think everybody's better for it. The person who replaced me afterwards stayed for 10 years. So that's a perfect example of how there's an affinity or there isn't, and you listen to your gut. In 2016, a company that I had that I was managing and buying for went under, and I had to make decisions about which way to go. And there's a case for loyalty with the right people and the right idea. So from 2016, I think that was a low point, and it ended up being a turning point that turned out to be the best thing that could happen for me on a professional level. On a personal level, I think right now starts my comeback story.
Tell us. Yes.
Well, I won't get into details about it, but I can tell you that right now there's been some, in the past recent time, there's been some things that I've had to deal with, and a lot of the things, aside from middle age, the 46, and not really a midlife crisis, but more like a midlife renaissance.
I love that.
And a lot of things have come to mind around acknowledging the impact stress has, finding ways to be on time, and making sure that your relationships are healthy. And right now begins the comeback story. I'll just leave it at that.
I love it. I cannot, the writer in me wants to push you, but I'm not going to do that because I want to get the story first. But I appreciate your openness, because we have to talk about those moments, because I think their impact lasts a long time, right? The impact of, man, I had a failure, a disappointment, a business that didn't go the way that I wanted to, but this is what I did to come back. And I think it's important to share that. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Hopefully the mute button worked because there's a plane overhead. So
yeah, no worries. I knew what you were doing. So I want to give you the last word because,
sure.
I want to talk a little bit about Napa Rise, or I want you to share, I know where your heart is. It's technology, it's sustainability. So I want to give you the last word and talk a little bit about what you're doing now.
I didn't get into this business to try to help change the world, or try to have a better society within wine, or try to, make help find ways to make us greener. Since 2001, you just get into it because wine is cool, right? Just like your background of your shelving there is like, oh, now that's life. That's rich. That's beautiful, right? And there's so many stories about all these things that we have in our lives that wine does really is an extension of our humanity, and allows us to have that grace with each other, to be more collaborative. But I think there's a point in your career in which and I see this, we see this a lot of the more notable figures in wine these days are all talking about the same thing, and that is through either regeneration, sustainability, social equity, all those kinds of things. And I think we reach a point where we've done well in wine, and it's time for us to do good in wine.
Yeah.
And we've been helped by many people, maybe many organizations. We've seen the power of the relationships that I mentioned earlier. We've seen the power of friendships. We've seen the power of the right patrons at the right time, the right mentors at the right time. And we also see the power of climate. It's not even climate change. It's the change has happened. It's happened. It's climate chaos. It's not climate. It's not global warming. It's global boiling, as somebody said recently. An important, prominent figure, I think the UN guys. That's what keeps me up at night. Okay. And of course, everyone's talking about it. But really, the part that keeps me up at night within sustainability and within this area is if we accept that just a little bit is enough, and that's not true. Taking case in point, something that I thought about recently, not something I thought about recently, something that I wrote about recently, which is, organic and biodynamic, noble farming methods. Hey, Crow, I think that Cuervo is here for me. Those things their origin story was not about climate change, right? It was about pesticides. It was about health, flavor, reducing pesticides, maybe that holistic relationship with land. But the more important idea is that there's a systemic need to look at everything, which is why if you care about the microbes in your soil as a farmer or as a vineyard, and the biodiversity of your soils and your flora and your fauna, you ought to damn well care about the diversity and balance and life of your people. Right? It's such a duh thing to be like, why is social equity part of sustainability? Because it's innately part of it. It's from the very beginning. It was founded that way. People, planet, and profit, and the business around this is the business case is invaluable. I mean, large studies have shown that diversity especially in the boardroom, create more resilient and more profitable companies. If we stop at the farm, we're not going far enough. And as beautiful as I want my kids to have organic food and cereals and everything, as beautiful as biodynamic wines are, the systemic nature of building resilience around energy use, waste management, water, everything. That's what keeps me up at night, is to have our organizations, our wine importers, our restaurateurs, our sommeliers, our retailers acknowledge that what used to be the ceiling is now the floor.
So
What used to be organic was the ceiling. It's
Mhm.
now the floor. You got to at least, and then you got to keep going way past that.
Yep. Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at.
Okay. So I have to ask you this because I need a follow-up. There's a follow-up here. You said, and correct me if I'm wrong, I heard you say a little bit is not enough. And I think, so here's the thing.
Yes. I see what you're saying. Got it.
Okay.
Go for it.
I feel like when we talk about all of these issues, social equity, environment, it's a really big elephant, right? And there's been this idea of like one bite at a time. And my interpretation of what you're saying is, no, man, we got to just eat this whole thing. And how do you propose that we do that? Or how does someone get involved with Napa Rise? And, how do we take on such a huge series of issues? It's not even one. How do, what's the strategy here?
Regine, I'm very glad you clarified this because it's important to parse out what I mean and what I don't mean. And it's understanding the breadth of the challenge.
Okay.
So the whole, like how many areas there are in which we can can address the impact that we have as humans on this planet. But at the same time, acknowledging and agreeing that little steps do matter.
Okay.
But those little steps can and should be, you should acknowledge how many areas you can do little steps in.
Gotcha. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It isn't that I'm sort of advocating for transformational change, depth wise, like one subject. I like that too. I'm asking for understanding how broad the issues are. And if you take little steps across them, that is, to me, it's just as noble and it's just as valuable as deciding to reduce, deciding for a winery to go to net zero in their carbon footprint. But if they ignore how they treat their workers, then they're missing. You see what I'm saying? They're missing how interrelated everything. It's a systemic view.
Exactly. It's how broad and how connected it all is. Right. Yeah. So how do we?
Very happy you asked me to clarify that, because if it stayed as it is, as it was, it wouldn't have been exactly what I wanted to say. Thank you.
No, thank you for taking it further. So how do we support Napa Rise? How do we support you? Yeah.
Wow. I think an open mind around because I think that there's leaders who are, that you're interviewing and chatting with, you yourself being one of them, of course. And of course, you were on my podcast too, which is great. So we're now doing the switcheroo here. I heard recently someone say, Napa doesn't really have a sense of community, or Napa isn't going far enough. Or, maybe this or that are not really as strong as they can be or should be. And my thought is, there's two ways to it. There's two things you can say to that. You can stand and critique and say, why bother? Or you can use your voice, especially if one has a powerful platform, and say, acknowledging that acknowledge that Napa Rise wants to catalyze action to get us together and to find solutions together and to share the challenges, the risks, the strategies, where if you've made mistakes and you want to, other wineries want to learn from them so they can avoid those mistakes and champion your successes because they want to hear those too. Yeah. So I'd say how can we help Napa Rise? Assume that we're not perfect, but assume that our intention is the same as yours, and work with us, join us. And especially if one has a powerful voice, we'd love to have you as part of the community.
I love that. I love assume that we are not perfect, but focus on the intention.
Right.
I think that we should do that with people and with organizations. So
Yeah.
Martine, AKA Martin, it's a pleasure. I really admire you so much, and I appreciate everything that you're doing in the industry. I know it's not easy, right? We make it look good on Instagram, but I want to be one of the first people, or actually I want to be one of the millions of people who say thank you for everything.
Regine, thank you. It's my pleasure. I'm very happy that we spent this time, and that the crow decided to stay and join the join the chat.
Added to the environment.
Yeah. So it happens in the middle of nature in Benicia.
I love it.
Good on you, Regine. Appreciate it.
Cheers.